on Flashpoints, another special extended edition of Community Business with Catherine Austin Fitz, as we continue to cover the meltdown on Wall Street and its reverberations on Main Street. We'll feature listener calls and a close look at the implications of a $700 billion bailout. You're paying for that one. I'm Dennis Burns with Nora Barris-Friedman. All this straight ahead on Flashpoints. Stay tuned.
And in Berkeley, I'm Nora Barrows-Friedman. You're listening to Flashpoints on Pacifica Radio. The night report is off tonight. Coming up in one moment, we'll be joined by Catherine Austin Fitz. But first, I'm with Dennis Bernstein here in the studio at KPFA to talk a little bit about the current meltdown. Our listeners may remember that Dennis broke a major story in late February in which it was revealed that Barack Obama's main fundraiser and his campaign finance chair for president was one of the key architects of the subprime meltdown on Wall Street. Penny Pritzker, as chair of the Superior Bank, oversaw the sale of hundreds of thousands of bad mortgages to Wall Street through Merrill Lynch and other corporations. Dennis's story, Obama's subprime conflict, has appeared in Consortium News, Common Dreams, The Huffington Post, and The Drudge Report. And Dennis, before we bring Catherine Austin Fitz on, let's recap this important story in the context of the current meltdown. Remind us who Penny Pritzker is and how she fits into the equation.
Well, her current official position for the Obama campaign is that she is the National Finance Chair. Her family owns the Hyatt Regency hotel chain. And interestingly enough, in the context of the current bailout, Warren Buffett's now offering a couple of billion to Goldman Sachs, should understand that Penny Pritzker is a partner of Warren Buffett in the Mormon Group. This is a massive investment banking business group that they are partners in together. And it should be remembered that after one of the debates during the primary campaign, Barack Obama finished up the debate, and he was proud to tell journalists a little bit later that he has actually just had been emailing back and forth with Warren Buffett. Isn't that, man of the people? I guess he wants to talk to the people after his debate, and so his idea of the everyday people was Warren Buffett. So just saying that about the fact that Barack Obama's finance chair is Warren Buffett's partner. Part of the problem of dealing with the Wall Street, it's old boys funding old boys with old deregulation policies. Now, Penny Pritzker was the chair of the Superior Bank in Chicago. Penny Pritzker used that massive bank to open up a subprime operation that was the pioneering operation. It was the model, if you will, the structural model for securitizing, that's what it's called, subprime loans. In other words, taking tens and hundreds of thousands of risky loans, packaging them, and then selling them to Wall Street as insured packages, in which Merrill Lynch ultimately has responsibility, just to name one corporation, for these hundreds of thousands of subprime failures and close to subprime failures. Now, we're going to talk about this with Catherine Austin Fitz, but people should understand that 1 out of every 10 mortgage loans, people are in arrears over 90 days. 1 in 10 in this country. Just to make it personal, my mom died about a year ago, and I inherited a house, and she was really excited that this house that she bought, at the GI loan 50 years ago was worth $420,000. Well, now the house is at $310,000, and there are 4 other houses on the block where I live that are for sale. This country is under foreclosure. There is no there is no short-term situation. But the problem is, who's going to deal with it? Barack Obama with Penny Pritzker, the pioneer, the subprime queen who opened up the door. Remember, the FBI has several dozen investigations ongoing into banks, such as Penny Pritzker's former Superior Bank before she collapsed it for $1 billion in 2001 and 1,400 depositors lost everything. Penny Pritzker, her operation was crucial to the opening of this subprime on steroids craze. So how could it be that Barack Obama is the tough guy on subprime?
Well, Dennis, it's not just Barack Obama. It is the Republican running mate as well, John McCain, who does not have his hands clean in this situation either. Can you give us the update on McCain's involvement?
Well, that's the thing. This is all about deregulation. John McCain has a long and ugly record working with the S&Ls. The deregulation of the S&Ls, America's mom and pop banks, the sort of Jimmy Stewart, It's a Wonderful Life bank that helps communities. It actually is about local business. It's about helping to get a house. Well, they were sold out in the era of deregulation brought in by Ronald Reagan, who essentially ended the Glass-Steagall Act. That was founded in 1930 after the stock market crash, because banks were undercapitalized, so that it was a law that made banks be responsible by having a certain percentage of the capital that they represent and that the money that they take in the bank. So that if there's a run, they have money, they can pay people, they can give people money. We're seeing this again now, the runs on the bank. That's why we're going into this right now. Well, John McCain was in the celebrated Keating Five. He was one of 5 senators who was caught in an influence peddling scandal for Charlie Keating. He was one of the worst examples of bankers who took over after the deregulation. And what did Charlie Keating do? Among the things that he did is he convinced thousands of people in their 70s and 80s to take their money out of insured government deposits and put them in more risky bonds. Well, they went down. Thousands of these elderly people lost everything, were troubled. People ended up in the street. They ended up homeless, and they started killing themselves. And John McCain had to go through. I covered this hearing in Washington, D.C. of the Keating Five, and it was very clear that he was owned by the deregulators. Now, who did he do that with at the time? A senator at the time named Phil Gramm. Well, who was John McCain's advisor until he had to step down because he said, there really wasn't a financial problem going on. There was just a bunch of people who were sort of weak-kneed and just couldn't take it. So you've got John McCain, who's an old friend of deregulation, who turned his back, who opened up the door to the kind of regulations that we have seen lead to this meltdown. And we've got Penny Pritzker, who is the reason. Let me say this clearly. The big story of the campaign, of the primary, how could Barack Obama outspend Hillary Clinton 3-1? Huge story. Nobody ever thought anybody could take on the machine. Barack Obama did. Who is, according to the Wall Street Journal, his financial maven, who could be the first, wouldn't this be great, Nora? The first woman Secretary of Treasury could be Penny Pritzker, the subprime bandit. Now, what is she going to do to restrain, to prosecute the subprime bandits? Barack Obama's key fundraiser. So we got a problem. Finally, in this first story that I did for Consortium and Common Dreams and the Huffington Post, I didn't even get into the essence of the story, which is who was targeted by Penny Pritzker and her syndicate, her operation. And the tragic part of that is that by the hundreds of thousands, it was people of color, it was poor people, it was working people. There's a lawsuit against them in West Virginia where they were going after former minors with 7th and 8th grade educations, bamboozling them, misleading them. The brokers, the front-enders that Penny Pritzker's operation was involved in was pathetic and vicious, and thousands of people lost their homes in West Virginia because Penny Pritzker's people